Thank you then. So please always remember that a problem is a job that someone is unable to do or doing it with a lot of friction. So when you are identifying any, experiencing any problem yourself, it may be in your person, in your family, or it may be in the community. So see whether there is an opportunity to convert that problem into a business idea and build a solution around that problem. Okay. Now, as we have already discussed, how to discover these opportunities. So there are, many ways. One is that we have already explained in, the friction and pain point that the existing solutions or the customer is experiencing with respect to the existing solution, that themselves is a potential opportunity where you can either add on to the existing solutions or to the alternatives, or you may come up with altogether a different solution that can really bring value addition to the customer's life. Then there's another way is that specifically the futuristic founders or the people who can anticipate the future problems by looking at the current trends and the structural changes. Take an example like drones were nowhere, I mean it's long time back, but now we see so many drone startup. Drones were initially started for specifically for the army application, so we can say maritime application, but now you look at the application, how many startups are coming up around the drones. So these are the futuristic startups. They are working in the agri-tech. Drones are getting utilized in the medical, and we have seen in the COVID situation how drones have helped specifically in providing the social distancing data. So these are basically, based on the future current trends and the structural changes. You need to have a vision where you can anticipate and then start working on building a solution around that particular anticipated problem that we are having. Okay. Now let's move on to the next point, that is before taking up a problem and creating a solution for it, we need to really verify whether the problem is worth solving. We have identified, yes, there are some frictions, there are certain pains, and we have anticipated that because of some trends and regulatory changes, it's going to create a huge opportunity for a particular idea or for a particular solution or a product. But we really need to test our idea, okay, whether the idea that you have identified, especially in your Pathfinder challenge, so you need to validate that idea whether it is really worth pursuing or not. I will be taking you through a series of points where you can identify whether the problem is worth solving or not, how to identify. But once I have summarized, I request you that after the session, go back to the problem that you are having and apply the tools and the techniques that I'm telling you to the problem that you have. And if you see that based on the tools and the techniques, the results that you are having, if the problem is not worth pursuing, then it's better to drop that problem at this particular stage only and pivot to a new set of problem and a new set of identifying opportunity, rather than specifically wasting your time and energy on that particular problem. I'm thinking that no, I definitely going to create a solution around that. So the tools and techniques that normally, or the I can say the system that you can apply to identify is that first observe and observe the customer, the customer who is having the problem. You have identified the problem, but you need to observe the customer, you need to empathize, because what happen is that most of the time that the problem that you have identified may be a superficial and maybe at a very high level kind of problem. So you really need to observe the customer while using the existing product or the job that he's trying to get done. Observe these big and small points of friction that he's experiencing and identify what are the top three frictions or the pain point that the customer is experiencing. So list down those particular pain points by observing the customer. This cannot be done by sitting, in the campus or in your room. You really need to go out of the building, interact with the target customer that you have identified specifically for the problem, that this is the problem. Go and do your research based on the problem interviews. So first observe and see whether the problem is there or not. The second step is basically once you have observed and empathized with the customer, you need to find out the trigger point that is pushing the customer to look for a change. These triggers will basically help you in identifying the benefits and features that you can include in your final product and solution. you can build your minimum, or you can say your value proposition around these triggers. So you have to look at, what are these triggers. It can be the price of the product. So you have to, understand why the customer want to switch. Is it the price, or is it, the entire process of having that particular product or solution, or maybe the after service. So maybe the customer can experience friction and pain throughout the life cycle, while he start, acquiring about, inquiring about the product, then, go by having the product, the process, and later on, while he is consuming the service or the solution. So the friction can happen at any moment. So you need to identify those trigger points and list down what are the triggers that will make the customer to look for a change. Then you can, that these are the trigger points, and you can develop your product and solution around that. Now, you have also look at the existing alternatives. What are the existing alternatives on which are presently available? How the customer is getting the job at present, get done, especially with respect to the existing alternatives. Here, there's a very one specific point that I want to highlight, that sometimes there is no solution at all. There is no alternative. So that itself, having nothing or doing nothing itself, is an alternative. So we need to, if there is nothing, no product or solution is there in the existing market which can address this problem, then that's again a great opportunity. So you have to encounter that also, how, if the alternative are not there, so how the person is getting the job chance. Definitely he is doing something to get the job done, maybe in a traditional way or maybe in a different way. So write down about your existing alternatives, and from these existing alternatives you have to figure out what they are providing, the benefits, and what they are lacking. You have to note down that also in terms of the features and the benefit that these products, existing alternatives, are offering. Once you have done this, the next thing is basically to understand exactly what job the customer want to get done by hiring the new product. Here, what you have done in the last step, almost all these 1, 2, and 3 steps will bring all clarity. You already know the existing solutions, what solutions they are providing, and what they are lacking. So you can specifically, interact with the customer and figure out what exactly is missing, and whether I can, provide that particular missing feature or the benefit or the product or solution altogether. Next thing is that once you have identified that validated that yes, there is a problem, the need is there, then you have to look at the market size, because 1 and 2% might be experiencing that problem. There might be even a smaller set of customers who believe that this should be there, but you have to look at the market size, because 1 year down the line you need to take this idea and the work that you have done to a scalable size. At that time the market size need to be there, it has to be available. So do a little bit of, it's not that you have to do a very deep down market analysis. Simply identify how many people are experiencing this problem. If a large chunk of people are experiencing this problem, then you can say that yes, there is a potential, based on, maybe 10% of the populations, or maybe 5%, depending on what is the size of the population. You have to come up with an estimate that 5% of the people are experiencing this particular problem. So I believe that there is an opportunity for this particular problem to get addressed. Next is that once you have done all these things, these things you have done by observing. So far you have not done, any kind of interviews. So now once you have observed, you have listed down all these the parameters that I have mentioned. What you have to do is that you need to set up problem interviews with a few set of people. Maybe initially 10 number of people, or maybe 5 number of people who can be, who you can easily approach. So have a discussion with them around what you have, figure out, and try to validate that the assumptions or the problems or the pain points that you have discovered are really worth, are they really the same that the customer is experiencing, or it was just your assumptions or hypothesis. So you have to test your assumptions, and once you have tested your assumptions, then you can conclude that yes, I have tested my assumptions and my hypothesis, and now this is the problem worth pursuing. So from there onward, you can take this problem and start building a business around that. So this is basically a framework by which you can discover new opportunities, new ideas, and validate your ideas, whether it is a worth. When I say the worth, it always in the terms of whether the customer is willing to pay for it or not at the end. At the end, whether the customer is willing to pay for this particular solution that you are trying to address for the problems that they are having. So please keep that in mind. The worthiness means the willingness to pay also. Now let's move to the next section of the presentation, which is the customer and solution. So once you have identified the presentation, in today's session, we will not be talking much about the customer and solution, but this is how you should move when you have identified a problem. The next thing is that validate your problem. And the third part should be customer segmentations, and then designing a solution for those particular customers. Okay, that is especially the prototype and the coming up with the solution. Here the solution does not mean that you have to develop the final solution. No, here the solution means you have to focus more on the features and benefits that you will be putting in your final product to address the top 3 problem that the customer is experiencing and that you have identified in your problem interviews that you have run with the customer. So please, you need to do this before, jumping to the business model canvas. Under the customer sections, uh, what are the various things that you need to do, I will highlight. And please, you may take help of YouTube videos or the Google or something. And if you need additional help, we would be happy to, elaborate on those particular topics also. So you please identify your customer segment. Once you have identified the broad customer segment, please narrow down to a niche and to the early adopters. Your early adopters is basically, can be the first person whom you will be reaching to validate or to sell the product that you are having. So identifying the early adopters is very, very critical. If you take an example of Facebook started with a very specific set of customer or an early adopter in mind. Today you see that Facebook is such a large community, but they started with a single college student, and that college was also not a random college. They started with a student in the Harvard College. So because your early adopters will really rather once you have identified your early adopters, these are the people who can give you a quick feedback on the solution that you are designing for them. They can tell you whether your solution is going to work or not. So you really need to identify that who are going to be the first 10 customers or the early adopters whom I will be reaching out and selling the solution that I'm designing, or the product that I have, I'm going to offer it to them. So this is basically the homework that you have to do. After that, you have to list down the customer, the jobs that the customer is hiring your product, the product that he is hiring, what are the jobs that he expect the product or the solution to get done. Then the pain points that they are experiencing right now, and what are the gains. Gains are basically, something that delights the customer. So what are the gains that they are expecting apart from the basic features that you are definitely going to, the minimum features or the basic features that you include in your solution, what additional can delight them. Okay, so this is basically get covered into value proposition canvas. So I suggest that maybe after the session, please study a little bit about the value proposition canvas, and please fill the customer as well as the value proposition side of the canvas, and also create a customer persona. When I say that customer persona means that once you have identified your early adopters, in the early adopters, try to give them an identity, try to identify he or she so that you can correlate, and then try to visualize a day into that particular customer's life, what he and she is doing in a particular day, how their schedule start and how it ends, and what are the activities are part of that particular, because these things will really help you in defining the value proposition. Second, they will help you in designing the channels. Okay, because you if you know what your customer is doing and where he is active, the time that he is spending, it will be easy for you to do the target marketing specifically by understanding their activities, their needs and gains. So again, I suggest that please create this customer persona. You can get templates over the internet. Create a customer persona for the customer early adopters that you have identified. And in the customer persona, please fill in all the blocks that are available there, their identity, their age group based on your customer segment that you have identified. what are their paying capacity, how much they can pay, whether they are earning, working, or what kind of your customer targeting. So please do all these things before going to the business model canvas, because all the blocks in your business model canvas will be getting filled from all from the customer persona as well as the value proposition canvas. So you need to do these two things first, and then please start building your business model canvas. So I'll take a pause here for a little while. And maybe when we are done with our sessions, if you have specific questions with respect to this particular slide, I would be happy to answer and elaborate. Now will be, because we have explained the initial steps that you need to take, we will move to the presentation that we are supposed to have today on the topic business model canvas. So I believe that most of you must be, having there's a, what's the difference between a business plan and the difference between a business model. So in a simple way, I will be telling you right now that a business model is something, normally it's a one-page document, and where you simply conceptualize your business. You do not go into any kind of detailed planning and activity. The business model just an overview of the activities that you are going to do, and what are the important parts of your business that you need to visualize on a one page, and how they are interacting with each others, and what are the assumptions that you are making. A plan is basically converting your business model into the reality. So to convert the business model into reality, you need to have a very detailed business plan. So business plan comes later on after the business model. Okay. Now, just a simple definition, like, what's a business model? So it's basically a tool that makes it easier for you stress test your idea, track your progress, and avoid breaking the bank along the way. Here, the term stress test is very, very important, because normally what happens is that a business model is a very dynamic document, while the business plan is a static document. Business plan do changes, but they take a lot of time. But business model is a dynamic tool that you can always, like, go to your customer, and based on the feedback you come back and you totally change your business model based on the feedback that you are having. You keep refining based on the feedback that you are getting from your customers, the feedback that you are getting from the channels, the feedback that you will be getting from your internal resources, the cost and the revenue structure. So it's a dynamic model that keep changing and keep refining, and based on it gives you a very it fast tracks your progress. Basically, you don't have to sit down and take 2 to 3 months time period to jot down a business plan and come up with all the specific numbers. Instead, you can simply have a broad numbers and a broad kind of hypothesis in your mind, and simply go execute it, get the feedback from the customer, then come back, refine. So this is basically a lean approach that fast process your entire journey. Now, again, we say that in other terms, we can say that it is how a venture can deliver value to its customer in the form of product or services, and monetize some of that value. At the end, the business is about monetizing and getting the benefit, not only passing the value to the customer, but monetizing some part of that value so that it can become a sustainable business model. Now, let's have a look at the basics. Let the basics get cleared, and then we will be looking at the business model canvas. So most of the times what we do is that we get into this analysis and paralysis kind of trap, where we try to say that I need to have a perfect plan, especially, while we are doing an MBA study. We believe that we need to have a perfect plan or a perfect business model. So there is nothing like a perfect plan. Perfect plan is a myth. Okay, what you need to do is that based on the information and the resources that you have, you just need to create a business model, and then go build a product and solution, and then get it delivered in the market. And based on the feedback, whatever you are getting, you can always keep refining your business model. So if you take an example, specifically of initially of the large companies, 66% of the company, as per the statistics, they shows that they have changed their business plan. Initially, the cycle of the business used to be 75 years. Now the cycle of specifically the big business has come down to 15 years, and we all know that the innovation cycle, the time span has really fast processed. In if we look at the mobile industry, the way innovations are happening, the way the industry is growing, in every 2 months or in a quarter of time, there is a new model is coming out in the market. So in such a highly competitive and fast-paced environment, you cannot, develop your business plan or wait for the perfect plan to happen. No, whatever you have the information, just do it and execute it. Okay. The second point is that not a better plan A, but a path to a plan that works before running out of resources. As we have already highlighted, we are not looking for a perfect plan, but we are looking for a model by which we can, take our product to the customer and deliver the value without, burning, running out of the cash. So it's basically based on the limiting resources we have to execute it at very fast. The third is that not a rhetorical reasoning, but empirical testing. Most of the times what happen is that we are making the business plan sitting in a room. Okay, the business plans are happening in the rooms over the papers, we are writing and we are experimenting, we are brainstorming, we are debating. And we most of the times we simply, waste time. While the best way should be come up with a plan while having a brainstorming with the team, and then take it to the field, test with your customer, and then see whether it is working or not, rather than you making assumptions and thinking that no, I'm not doing perfect. It's better to go with the business model whatever you are having, that you have designed with a product to the market, and then later on you can always refine it. Then second is, as we said, that time is the scarcest resource, especially for the startups or the entrepreneurs. So you cannot wait for 3 to 4 months or even for a year to prepare that perfect plan. And again, I will iterate and re-emphasize that perfection is not the goal. It's not that you, whatever you are having, just do it. Do the first iteration. You can take help of your mentor. You can take help of your friends who can help you in refining or give you the feedback whether this business plan, business model looks okay or not. So just come up with the first plan, get it validated and get it, checked with your friends or with your mentors or with your facilitators, and then see whether some refinement is required or not. Now, there I'll be sharing some generic tips that you need to follow while creating a business model around the idea that you have. Okay. One thing is that you need to distinguish between customers and users. And I'm sure you all know that customers are the ones who pay you. Users are the ones who consume your services but do not pay you. So your business model will be always around your customers, because it is the customer who is ultimately paying. However, you need to take care of the final consumer who is consuming, specifically in designing the solution. Okay, so your business model canvas will be based on the customer, but the problems and the solution will be from the user's perspective. So please have that clarity. Then split broad customer segments into the smaller ones. Most of the times the mistake we do is that we say that the entire market I'm going to serve and all the people are going to consume my product or going to utilize the services. So basically what you are doing is that you are marketing to everyone, and when you are marketing to everyone, you are marketing to no one. So your product will not be getting the kind of attention that it needs, and you might experience failure at a very early stage because you were not able to split your broad customer segment into a niche and an early adopter. So please try to split. Later on, when you are scaling, you can target these different customer segments. And also, every customer segment will be having a different requirement. Maybe either the requirement can change, or maybe the channel by which you will be approaching your customers, these segments, that might also change. So therefore, you really need to differentiate your customer segment, and based on the customer segment you have to create business model canvas for each segment. Suppose if you have 3 to 4 customer segment, then you need to have 4 business model canvas for these 4 customers, because your all the data and all the blocks will change based on the customer segment. So please do not create a one business model for a broad set of customers. Then what you have to do is that you normally has to sketch the lean canvas in one sitting. Most of the times what we do is that we try to see that no, it might it won't be possible, I cannot do it. We have this afraid that what if I won't be able to complete it, I cannot do. Please put aside all these afraid. Whatever the knowledge information you have, try to sit in one sitting, as per the Ash Moria, who has been presented and given this lean approach. You should complete the lean canvas in 20 minutes, not more than that. But considering that you are a student and if you are experiencing some problem, maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes max, but you have to complete in one sitting. Okay. And while suppose there are certain blocks in the canvas where you believe that you cannot come up with a number, then you can leave them blank also. It's not that you have to leave all these, but try to fill as many blocks as you can. But if you are stuck with something, it's better to leave that particular block blank and get back to it at a later stage, maybe after hearing from the customers, or maybe having another brainstorming session with your friends. So that way you can leave one or two sections blank, but please keep this in mind that these sections should not impact in a major way to your business model. The second is that while filling the lean canvas, we should always have the customer centric approach. Most of the times what we do is that we think from the starter perspective. The problems that we identified and the solution, specifically the problems we identify, they are more from the business or the startup that is going to, how am I going to reach the customers? How am I going to deliver the solution to the customer? How I will market? So these are not the problem. These problems will be a part of it, of your channel and marketing or these. But the problems, you have to always keep the customer as a center for the problems and the solutions and the channels for everything. So when you are designing a channel, think the customer, not how am I going to market. Think about the customer. How am I going to reach the customer through this particular channel? You might think that there are certain products where you believe that I should go online only, but is your customer that you have identified, is he available on the online channels specifically for the product or service? So please do not, based on your convenience and what cost is bringing, do not fill the business model canvas. Keep the customer in the mind, and then decide which channels and what benefits and what features or what key matrices I need to include in my business model. So with all these things covered, the tips and about the basics, let's get started with the business model canvas. Today I will not be taking an example, because we are very normally it gets covered into a 2-hour session or something. So we'll be simply walking you through various blocks, and later on you might fill it, and if you need specific instructions or specific help, I would be happy to provide that. Okay. So this is basically how a lean canvas look, and I'm sure most of you might have gone, and you can, these are available easily. There are various websites by which you can, the lean stack is there, leancanvas.com is there, Canvanizer is one website. You can always Google, especially Canvanizer, where you can go create your profile and then make these canvases for yourself. So normally these lean canvas, it's divided into 9 blocks. Okay. uh, the problem and the customer segment, solution, unique value proposition, unfair advantage, and you can see these are divided into the 9 blocks. Now specifically, when you are filling the lean canvas or preparing your business model, there is a structured approach, and there is which you need to follow. So basically these blocks are, you can give them numbers. Normally we tackle these blocks in a very systematic way. We start the lean canvas with the customer segment. So the customer and problem block is where you start the lean canvas. These are the first set of blocks that you will be addressing. So the first set is the customer first, the problem is second. Then the solution, unique value proposition, and the revenue streams. These 3 things will be combined together. These 3 boxes, because they are linked with each other, so you have to tackle these 3 boxes together. Post that, you can address your channels and key metrics, and then you can come to the cost. And the last block that you normally fill in your business model canvas is the unfair advantage. Most of the times, we stuck at the unfair advantage box. So we suggest to the startups that it's better to leave this unfair advantage. Most of the times it is also known as the competitive advantage. It's better to leave this unfair advantage or the competitive advantage block empty for time being, because it will totally depend on the kind of solution that you have designed and what feedback you are getting from your customer over the time. So maybe you can leave this blank for a while, and down the line, maybe 2 to 3 months, you can understand that what is my unfair advantage, and you can fill this block, refine it, and then prepare another business model canvas. So these are the broad blocks, and I will be taking you through each block. What are the areas which you need to focus in these blocks, and how you can fill the canvas. I won't be taking an example today, but you may refer to on the Google, on the YouTube, and to have a better clarity how to fill the lean canvas and the business model. So now the first set of a block that we will be tackling will be the problem and the customer segment. So as I said that, we had a discussion, the unique, the value proposition canvas, okay, that you are supposed to complete identifying the customer. So most of your information will come from the value proposition canvas, because in the value proposition canvas, you have already identified the customer that you are going to, service or provide the product. You have already identified the jobs that needs to be done, and you have also, segmented or identified who will be my early adopters, specifically while designing the customer persona. So that's why these things are very, very crucial to do the value proposition, customer persona, and the customer segmentation, so that you can simply fill your customer block. As again I said, distinguish between customer and users. And if your customers are specifically create multiple canvases for more complex models. More complex models means I'm talking about the marketplace model, like eBay, and we have Airbnb, where there are, like, suppliers, and there are, like, buyers. So there are two set of customers, because you are charging the suppliers also at the one end, and you are charging to the buyer also at the other end. And both the requirements are totally different. So you need to create specifically when it comes to the marketplace. Suppose your idea or your product is around the marketplace, then you really need to make two sets of canvases. One is from the buyer's perspective, and the other one is from the seller's perspective. These the partners, as many partners you have to think from that perspective. And how you are charging, you have to design your business model keeping those aspects in mind. And third thing is that you have to narrow down your early adopters. So if you go back to this lean canvas, the customer segment, you have to fill the customer segments in this. Basically, the broad customer that you are targeting, you may based on the segment, you can mention 2 and 3 customer segment here. But I again suggest per customer segment is better to define a different business model canvas. Then you have to list down who will be your early adopters. Because these early adopters are very, very crucial. They are the one who is going to give you the first feedback on your product. So identify those early adopters, okay, and based on the how you can reach these early adopters, that will be taken care in the channels. So after covering the, I hope that we have covered. And you may, in between, I suggest that if you have any specific questions, please note down with respect to every box on every slide. And I would be happy to, answer, or maybe I can reply you or over the email also. The next set of box that you need to fulfill is the problem. So the customer and problem box normally get tackled together. So in the problem box, when you are identifying, filling the problem box, again, we have already identified the problem that the customer is facing, the jobs that he is needing get to be done. So prioritize the jobs that the customer, looking forward to get done, and only take the top 3 problems. You may not have top 3 problem, that's okay. You can always, even have one single problem also. You can say that this is the single problem, and maybe around that single problem itself, you can address the solution, okay? But no, but we suggest that not more than 3 problems. Your complete attention should be on 3 problems, and designing your solution addressing those top 3 problems only. And also, while you are, identify the problem, we suggest that you apply the 5 why root cause analysis. Suppose a customer tells you that this is the problem that I'm experiencing. Please try and understand why that is a problem, why the customer is experiencing that problem. Because as I said, sometimes you get only the superficial information. So it's better to dig deeper. Why this is a problem, why this is a problem. So do it in a 5 times, and then narrow down you will come up with the final problem, the exact problem that you need to address for that particular customer, okay? The second is that describe your customer's current reality. I mean, you have to, while you are filling the problem box, there we have a problem and the existing alternative. So list down the top 3 problem and then the existing alternative. It is very important to to highlight the existing alternatives. By looking at the existing alternatives, you know that these are the good things that I can adopt or build into my solution, and these existing alternatives are lacking these things, so this is why I need to provide. Because if you are not better than the existing alternative, the existing most of the time what happens is that if you do not look at the existing alternatives, you might end up building something that is already in the market. So it's better to do a research around the existing alternatives, and then design a solution, something different which is not available in the market. Now we will move to the second block of, or the second set of blocks that we will be normally tackling together. So you have to, tackle the solution, the unique value proposition, and revenue. These three blocks normally give you the minimum viable product. Okay. So the minimum viable product or the prototype, this, that you will be developing, that will be based around the solution and the unique value proposition that you are offering, and the pricing, basically, what you are going to charge for that particular product. So that's why we have to, normally tackle these three blocks together. Now, what is the minimum viable product? Is the smallest solution that deliver customer value. So at the initial stage, you need not to come up with a fully functional, I mean, it has to be functional, but not the final product with all the features and the benefits that you have incorporated. You just need to focus on the number one customer problem that you intend to address. Build your prototype or, the solution around that particular number one problem only. And, keep the pricing point and design the minimum viable product, and then deliver it to the customer through a solution demo. You can do a solution demo and ask the customer whether what features extra we need to add, what is he comfortable with the pricing that you have placed on your minimum viable product, because the testing the price will really help you to understand where to price your product. Now, the unique value proposition box. So we have covered, so we'll be tackling, the first is the unique value proposition. Here you can even go to the solution box also first. It's up to you. You can fill the solution box, you can fill to the unique value proposition. Better to go to the solution box first. So once in the solution box, you have to simply, look at the top three problems that you have identified, and how you are going to address the top three problems will be your solution. You need not to define, that suppose if we take an example of the phone or something that the customer is looking, he might be looking to a way where he can call to their friends and communicate to them. You need to say that I will be designing a smartphone or something. You can simply say that, a device or a tool that can have, communication, at the same time provide video calling facility, or at the same time. So simply mention these features that you will be going to include in your solution. You need not to define that, the smartphone will be the solution. No, you can simply mention the feature right now, because the solution building will be taking a little bit time. The final product will take time to come over. So right now, fill with the benefits that you will be providing specifically to address the problems that he is having. Okay. So after covering this, let's go to, then you can move to the your unique value proposition box. Here you have to simply, because you have already done the value proposition canvas, we have already identified the pain relievers, the gain creators for the customer. So it will be easy for you to fill this block. You know the solution, you know the gain creators, and you know your intended customer. So you can easily fill what you are going to provide, for who you are creating this solution, and why. I means why the end customer, what value. Why means does not means that why I'm offering the solution. Why means what the end value the customer will be getting out of this particular product or solution. So craft your unique value proposition, basically, by covering the what, who, and why. Okay. And again, it has to be revolving around the number one or maybe the top two problem that you are trying to address and solve for the customer. And again, please keep in mind that this unique value proposition should be designed at the early stage. Later on, you can refine the UVP based on your target audience and as you scale in the journey of your venture. Initially, it should be around the early adopters that you have identified. So have that problem, the number one problem that your early adopters are facing, and then design your unique value proposition around that. And then also, while designing the unique value proposition, you should focus on the finished story benefits. Okay. Finished story benefits means at the end what the customer is experiencing. Take an example of naukri.com. Okay. Or maybe take an example of IIM Udaipur, where you are pursuing your education and having a degree. So what the finished benefits you are getting, it's not the education that you are getting from the IIM Udaipur, but if IIM Udaipur has to advertise and market themselves, they have to focus on the end benefit, the placement and the jobs that you will be getting into the corporates. So they cannot say that, come and get a quality education with us if there is no promise of, those jobs, that the end outcome. Similarly, for Naukri.com, if they start publishing that, will help you, give you very beautifully designed resumes, that won't be a very strong value proposition. But if they say that these resumes will guarantee you jobs, then that's what the value proposition. So always, because that is what the customer is looking. The resume service that I need is not because I want to have a beautiful resume and show it to everyone. The resume need to serve the purpose so that I can get a job to the intended corporate where I am applying. So that's how you have to look while designing your unique value proposition. You may go and then you need to have, at the end, once you have the unique value proposition, it may be a 2 to 3 lines. You need to also have a high concept pitch. The high concept pitch is basically like, a one liner. You can take an example from, like, from Uber, from Pizza Hut, where they are, having these one lines. Especially if you take an idea network, they came up with a very catchy line, an idea can change your life. So but that was not delivering any message. So don't go with, random. Your one line pitch should specifically mention what product and what solution or what problem you are going to address and what solution you are providing. So come up with a very crisp, clear and specific tagline for your product or for your company. Specifically, I suggest come up with for your product only. The next is the revenue box. Okay, so now you have to, because you might be thinking that, I have not identified the cost for my product, so why should I fill the revenue box? It should be the other way around, where I first identify my the cost and then I should go to the revenue box. But what I'll suggest is that it's better to look at the revenue box first, based on, the existing alternatives that you have in the market. Because at the end, your customer is going to compare your product, the solution that you are offering, with the existing alternatives. If the existing alternative is priced at, take an example, suppose if it is priced at rupees 300, and you are your product is also doing the same job but with a certain value added, and if you are charging for that like 600, it is not going to work. Okay, because the customer will always compare this product. If you are charging 600, that means your customer segment is totally different, not those customers which are buying the product at 300 rupees. So when you are pricing your product, keep the alternates, alternates in the mind, the existing alternatives in your mind, and the customer segment. Okay, so there has to be a match between the existing alternative pricing point and the customer that you are targeting. So customer means whether they have the purchasing capacity or the purchasing power with them or not. Okay, so initially what you can do is that you maybe simply, based on your the work that you have done, and if you have the cost and everything with yourself, you can even start with the cost block. That is totally up to you, how would you like to move forward. This is just a suggested order. You can even fill up the cost structure, and based on the cost you can see whether where I need to price my product. But normally we suggest that rather than the cost based pricing, and value based pricing should be kept for a later stage. Okay, where you can easily, charge for the value or the value add that you are providing to the customer. Once you have established your early adopters, and through the word of mouth, later on you can refine the pricing. Okay, and please do not come up with, 10 different pricing plans for one particular product or solution. For this customer, this pricing plan, for this, no. Keep a single plan for your early adopters. Okay, test that pricing point, whether the early adopters are comfortable or not, and whether they are willing to buy your product at that particular price or not. Later on, you can, once you know that your early adopters are happy, and when you are going to the larger segment of the customer or to the next set of customers, you can refine based on the learnings, based on the cost and the value that you are adding. You can refine your pricing and altogether launch your product into the market at that particular pricing point. Now, the next set of box that we will be tackling will be the channel, key metrics, and the cost structure. Okay, so these are, again, very, I think we won't be having any issue filling these blocks, because the channel box is again based on, as I said, have the customer centric approach. Okay, initially keep your early adopters in mind and see how I can reach these early adopters, and To identify your channels, you need to understand where your customer is normally, on which channels he is available and what are the channels that he is preferring right now. And it's because initially we have very limited budget for marketing and for a very high level of channels. So it's better to have either you can have direct contact, direct sales to the customer, especially going directly to your early adopters and testing your product and the providing your solution and product to those early adopters by directly contacting them. Second is that you may choose between inbound versus the outbound channels. One is the pull and the other one is the push approach that we have. So it's better always like to go for the outbound channel, specifically if you have the trade shows where large audience is coming and you can go and uh, display your product depending on what kind of customers you, again your channel should always depend. Suppose your product is something that you want to sell on Instagram only, then maybe you have to, whether your audience is active on Insta, Facebook, or on various social media platforms. So it's totally depend on where your customer is available, what is the reach, and how you can. But do not spend much on the channels. Try to identify only one and two channels by which you can reach to your early adopters and deliver. Later on, maybe 1 year the down line, or maybe based on the success, maybe 3 months or 4 months the down the line, you can build certain channels that can take the load of the scalability. Once your product is successful and your customers simply multiplying, that time you should look at the channels that can really help you and give you that scalability advantage, because you have deep pockets, you can spend on those channels and you can reach to your customers faster. But initially limit to one and two channels and do not spend extra on those particular channels. The finally comes the once you have done all these things, because for any business it is very important to track the success, how we are going to measure, what are the key metrics that you are going to measure. So maybe here again you need not to be very specific at early stage. Try to see note down 2 to 3 metrics, maybe 3 metrics you can say. So how to define the metrics? The one way is that you can list down the customer action that drives value. So suppose if you want to launch your product on Instagram or Facebook, then your metrics has to be either the number of likes or the number of visits, or the footfall that you are having on your particular post. So these are you have to define. So customer actions, you have to look at the not from your perspective. One is from the customer's perspective. What are the action of the customer? If you are a brick and mortar a brick and mortar store you are having, then how in particular mall, how many in your store, how many footfalls are happening of the customers, and out of those footfalls how many are getting converted into actual sales. So this is these. So one way is to have metrics around the customer action, and the second is basically how you are going to define the success. It can be the turnover that you are targeting, it can be the number of customer acquisition that you are going to have. So it's totally depend on the business that you are having, and you need to define maybe an initial level 2 and 3 success metrics, and later on based on your experience and learning, you can refine it and add on to extra matrices into your business model canvas. Now we'll be tackling the final block of the business model, that is the cost structure. And again, it's up to you whether you want to tackle it along with the revenue. So you can have the cost and revenue block all together, and later on you can move to the channel and the key metrics. So you can have the cost and the revenue box together. While you are coming up with the cost, it's always advised that because as a startup there are not much cost. When you are having a new idea, you limited persons are working on that particular idea. There might be only 2 people or next to max 3 people, and a certain fixed resources, though the startup cost. So outline what are the fixed costs that you are going to incur specifically in the next 3 months or maybe 6 months down the line. What are the costs? Or maybe you can have 1 year, but it's better to break it into quarter wise. So what are the costs, that fixed costs that you will be incurring in the first quarter, and then the variable cost, specifically to these fixed and variable costs right now is to deliver the prototype or the minimum viable product. Right now we are not focusing on our final finished product. Our business model is also built around the prototype and the minimum viable product. So think about the fixed and variable cost that you are going to experience to build that prototype or the minimum viable product for your early adopters. Then you can do a back of the envelope calculation also, based on the outcomes that, the cost or money that you are spending. how much units of the sales, suppose if you are going forward, how many units of sales I need to make and what will be my break even point. One is for the minimum viable product, and later on you can do the same for this. Even if you are not coming up with the break even point, I suggest that calculate your burn rate. Burn rate is basically, to understand how much I will be burning on a monthly basis. Because when you are at a prototype and minimum viable stage, the break even make no sense, because you are actually not selling the product in the market. So break even will not be making a sense at this particular stage. So better to calculate what I will be burning on a monthly basis. So write down your burn rate instead of the break even point. Okay. And the third is that evaluate against your metric of success, because again it depends on what metrics you have set. Your cost might vary based on the metrics. Okay. So the cost that you are making, it should always align with the metrics. Metrics in the sense, suppose you are saying that I want to target not at the prototype stage, but later on you say that I will be targeting 100 customers. Okay. So have you accounted the cost of acquiring those 100 customers into your cost structure? Because the acquiring 100 customer is a metric of success. So you really need to have again the customer centric approach. So this is the cost structure box in a summary that you need to take care. Again, please, I would like to highlight and emphasize that the initial business model canvas that you will be working around will be keeping in mind the prototype or the minimum viable product that you will be designing going forward, specifically around the idea that you have identified. So fill the business model canvas, keeping the prototype, not thinking about 2 years down the line, 3 years down the lines. No, just keep that prototype stage in mind and then fill in the business model canvas. And with that, I conclude the session and I wish you all the best with your business model canvas.